Hi there. Today we are going to build a classic tic tac toe game using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is a perfect project for those looking to enhance their web development skills. I upload unique project videos every week. Make sure to subscribe our channel Sharat Chandar K and hit that notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. First, let's take a look at what we'll be creating today. Our tic-tac-toe game will allow players to choose their option. It may be a X or O. If we select X, then O will be a computer. If we select O, then X will be a computer option. And below we have a option to start the game. Once we start the game, we can see the 9 squares within a grid. Here we can select any of the box. The tool will set the user selected option within that box. Then computer will automatically pick and place their option in an random box. Again we can select, then computer will also select. Here we have a 8 type of winning combinations. It may be a row, column or diagonals. Based on this combination, our tool will display the winning results with background color. And below we can see the winners if it is a computer or player with their selected option. In some cases, it might be a chance to draw the game. And below we have a option to reset. Once we click, it will reset all the selection and will display the game selection again. Now we'll select the option and we'll play the same. If you really enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. If you have any questions or suggestions, make sure to subscribe. Your support means a lot. That helps me to create more content for you. Now let's jump into the code. Here on my desktop, I have already created a project folder name called Tic Tac Toe. Let me open this into my favorite code editor, Visual Studio Code. Let me know yours favorite and why in our comment box below. Inside the directory, I have already created index.html, style.css and script.js. In the index.html, I have already added the HTML boilerplate with the help of exclamation mark. Along with that, I have changed the title to TikTok to by Sharat Chandar K. I have linked other two files here. Along with that, I have linked the font awesome CDN to use the icons. Now inside the body, I am going to add the header with the help of h1 value of tic tac toe. Next to this, I am going to add the div tag with class attribute. In Visual Studio Code, we have a embed abbreviation. To create this, we need to use dot container. If we hit enter, it will automatically create the div tag with the class attribute with the value of container. Inside the container, I am going to add one more div with class value of start game. Inside the start game, I need to add two more div with help of dot square asterisk 2. This will help us to create two div inside this. Inside the first square, I will add the font awesome icons with the help of I with class FA solid FAX. Same thing, I will copy this icon and I will paste it into the second square. Instead of X, I will change to O. Let us see our HTML file in action. For that, in Visual Studio Code, we have an extension called Go Live. Once we click, the tool will automatically load our project into the default browser. Here we can see the heading as well as the icons. Along with that, we need to add few more elements next to this start game. So here we'll add one more div with playground. Inside the playground, we are going to add the 9 squares. This will help us to play the game. So as we already done, I will add the dot square asterisk 9. If we hit enter, it will create the 9 div with class of square. Next to this playground, we are going to add one more div with button. Inside this button, we are going to add one more header with h3 class of results. Next to this h3, I'm going to add the button with id of. So id, we need to use the hash with value of start reset button. If we hit enter, it will create a button element with the ID attribute with the value of start reset button and then value of start game. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the start game button without refresh. That is how the live server will work. Now we need to style this. So for that I need to jump to the style.css. I have already added the import URL of font family Poppins. This will help us to reset the values of margin to 0, adding to 0, box sizing, border box, font family to be Poppins from an import URL. The next thing we need to add the styles to the body with the help of element selector body. We'll set the background color to blue, min I to 100 VH, display to flags. This will help us to set the content into the center of the screen with the help of align item center, justify content center, flux direction to be column. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the background color and then content is placed into the center of the screen. Next thing, we'll add the styles to this container with the help of class selector dot with the value of container. We'll set the background color to white and border radius to 10 px, padding inner spacing 25 px. We'll set margin top to 10 px and box shadow with the position of 14 px and then 0 and 0 with the color of black. If I save, we can see the container with the background color of white with box shadow. Next thing, we'll add the styles to this dot game with the help of same dot selector and then value. We'll set the display to flags, align items to be center, justify content to be center. We'll set the gap of 50 px. If I save, now we can see the flux direction to be center. Now we'll add the styles to the square with the help of class selector with dot. The square style will applicable all the divs placed here. So I will use the class selector of this. Will set the width of 100 px, height of 100 px, border radius to 10 px, cursor to pointer. Will set the border 1 px, solid with that same blue color. We'll set the background to white, font size to 40 px, display to flux again, align items to be center, justify content to be center. We'll set the box shadow with the position of 10 px, 10 px, 5 px with light blue color. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the X and O with box shadow of all the squares. Now this is the starting point of the start game and this is the playground. We need to set this in a grid view. For that we have added the squares inside this playground. I will use this playground class to align this. We'll set the display flags as we discussed. We'll set the grid gap of 20 px, grid template columns, repeat for 3 with 100 px. We need to set the same for row also with repeat 3 and 100 px. This will help us to set 3 rows and 3 columns. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see them 3 rows and 3 columns. On the initial state, we no need to display this based on the selection from the user and then we need to display that. For now, we'll set display to none to hide this. If I save, now we can't see that. Now we can see X or O and start game. Once we click start, then only the playground should be visible. Here, whenever we hover on this, user need to know which squares they are in. So for that, we need to add the background color for that with the help of square with hover. We'll set the background color to this of same blue color. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I hover, we can get that. So if it is X, if it is O, we need to set separate color on that. So with the help of class here, FAX, I will use this class to set the color and FAO to set the color. For the FAX, we'll set for color of green. For FAO, we'll set the color of red. If I save, now we can see this, and we need to set the styles of the font for the entire icons. I will use FA Solid to set the styles to this. We'll set the font size to 2.5 rem. We'll set the pointer events to none. If I save, now we can see the icons with over effect. Now we need to add the styles to this button. First we need to set this button into the center of this container. For this button we are using this btn class. With the help of class selector, we'll set margin top to 1 rem, text align center. If I save, now we can see the button is placed into the center of the screen. Now we'll add the styles to this button with the help of id. Because we don't have any class here, for this id we need to use this id selector with the help of hash and then value of that id. For this button we'll set the height of 40 px. We'll set the padding inner spacing top and bottom to 10 px, right and left to 25 px. We'll set the margin to 10 px of the outer spacing. We'll set the border radius 10 px as uniform. We'll remove the border to none. This will help us to remove the border. We'll set the outline to none. This will remove the outline of that button. We'll set the background to the same blue color. Cursor to pointer. We'll set the box shadow of same for the square. So I will copy this on above and I will use the same. I will paste it here. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the start game with over effect. What is the thing is pending for the style for result? For this result, we'll display the winners. For that, we'll set the padding inner spacing of 10 px. That's all for the design. Once we click, we need to set this active. Once we hit start, we need to get that square and we can start the game to play. For that, we need to jump to the script.js to do the functionality. Here in the script.js, we need to declare the declaration first. For that, I will use the const of start game equal to document. Document is an owner of your web page. Dot query selector. For the start game, we need to get this element. So I will go to the index.html. Here, this is the start game as class. If it is a query selector, we need to mention this is a class or id or attribute. For now this is a class. I will use for dot with the value of start game. Now we'll check this what this start game contains with the help of console.log. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I insert element here in the console, we'll get that entire element of the start game. Inside the start game, we have already created two squares with icons. We'll get this entire element of the start game. That is how the DOM tree will work. Here I have declared all the declaration. What are the things we are going to use in this project? These are all the element declaration based on the query selector, and query selector all will get all the squares inside this parent element. This is what the get element by id. To use the id selector, these are all the two global selector. To use of O for text of this font awesome, X text of this font awesome icon. And currently we are going to use with a current player as X. This is what the game active bull flag. Now we need to click this and we need to set the active class to the squares. For this we have already declared the start squares. This is the query selector all. This will help us to get all the squares inside this div. We'll check that with the help of for each of squares. Inside this we'll set the console.log to check the square. If I save, if I go to the browser, here in the console, we can see the two squares. Here inside this start game, we have only few squares. So I am getting a two div element here. With the help of this, we need to add the add event listener for this. Then only user can click to this and set to active and then start the game. For that, square dot add event listener. This will help us to create the event with the help of click and the function of e. Inside this, I will add the alert to check if this event is firing or not. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I click on X, we'll get that alert. If I click on O, we'll get that alert. So instead of alert one, I will use to get this inner HTML e.target dot inner HTML. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I click, we'll get this FAX. If I click this, we'll get FAO. Same as we need to set the styles to this e dot target dot class list dot add active. If I save, if I go to the browser, here in the elements, we can see this container and then start game. For this element, we have only square class. Once we click, here we can see the active class is added. Once we click, here we can see the class is added to this. Whenever we added this class, we need to set the background color to this. We can reuse this over property as we have already added the styles to this. So I will jump to the style.css. Here square.active. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we can see the active class is added to this. If I refresh, if I click, it was adding to this. If I click, it was adding to this. But whenever we click this, one should remove, right? We need to clear that class. For that, here we have already used this for each. So I can copy and paste this for each. Inside this for each, we'll get that element as square element dot class list dot remove of this active. This will help us to remove all the active class into this start square whenever we click, and then we'll set the active class to that particular element. Will show you if I go to the browser, if I click on X, it was added to here. If I click on O, it was removed from here and it was added to here. How simple is this, right? Now whenever we click this, we need to change the current player to based on the click. For that, we need to add some attributes with the help of attribute data player equal to, this is for X and this is for O. I will jump to the script.js. Here in the script.js, we can find that attribute with the help of console.log e.target.get attribute of that data player. If I save, if I go to the browser, in the console, if I click, we'll get null. If I click, we'll get O. If I click this, we'll get null. Why? Because if I go here, instead of square, I have set this to start game. I will move these things to square. If I go, if I click, we'll get X. If I click, we'll get O. Now once we hit start, we need to display the playground. So before that, we need to set this to that current player. Instead of console.log, we'll set current player to that get attribute of data player. Now once we start game, we need to show the playground. For that, we need to add the event listener to that button. With the help of this declaration, I will use this directly. I can set the add event listener because we are placing this for one element. With the help of click with same function of e, inside this, we'll set the start game dot style dot display equal to none. This will help us to remove that start game of inline style to none. Same thing, we have already added the playground as display to none. Instead of none, we need to set to block. Instead of none, we need to set to grid because this is a grid of 3 into 3. Will set to grid. If I save, now we are getting error because add event listener is null. If I go to this index.html, here I have misspelled this. I will copy and paste this dot restart button as well as the style too. If I save, if I go to the browser, here we are not getting. If I hit start, the start game is went and we'll get the playground with over effect. Still the button is a start game. Once we click, we need to reset that. For that, here we can use this conditional operator. If e dot target dot inner text, previously we saw that inner HTML, same as this, will get only the text. If it is start game, we need to enable and disable this. Else, I will copy this and I will change these things to flags because we have set this as a center and this one to none. Along with that, we need to change the inner text of this with inner text of reset game and else will set to start start game. Then only this conditional operator will work, because here we are checking with inner text of start game. So I will go to the browser. If I click on start, now we can see the inner HTML change to reset game. If I click on reset game, the playground is gone. We'll get the start game with button of start game. Once we click the boxes, we need to place the user selection value. If I refresh, now there is no selection. By default, I need to set this X as active, because here we have set this current player as X. For that, I will jump to the index.html. Here we'll set this class to active. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I refresh, here we can see the X is by default player all the time. We can select our option and it start. Based on the box selection, we need to place the user select as well as the computer select as dynamic. For that, as same as this, we need to add the event listener for this all squares from the playground. Squares dot for each, as we done already with square. Inside this for each, we are going to add the event listener of this of click with the function of e. Inside this, we'll set the e dot target dot inner HTML equal to x text. We'll check that. If I save, if I go to the browser, I will start the game. If I click, now we can see the icon of X is adding into the squares. So if I restart, if I go and click O, if I click on start, still it is placing. We need to clear this. For that, I can use one more function with the help of function keyword. We'll use the function name as clear squares. Inside this function, I will use this squares dot for each. Inside this, we'll set the square dot inner HTML equal to null. I need to use this on the else spot because this is a reset game. So I will initialize this with a clear square. If I go to the browser, if I hit on start, I will place all the X into the squares. If I reset, if I start again, here we can't see that. Here, if I click on O, if I start the game, still it will place X only, because we have directly set the X to this inner HTML. For that, we can use the conditional operator with the help of current player triple equal to X. Then we'll use the X text, else we'll use the O text. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I start, it will place the X. I will reset. If I go and click O, if I start the game, if I click, now we'll get the O here. Once we click start, once we click by the user, the next option should be placed by the computer, right? For that, we need to create one more function with the help of function keyword, function name as computer move. Inside this function, we'll add one let variable of available moves with the help of array. This will help us to find all the available moves from the square. I will use this square dot for each with the help of square, and I will use the index of I. Inside this for each, we'll check if square dot inner HTML double equal to null. Then we'll check that console of log. We'll check the I of this index. I will copy this function and I will initialize inside this click event. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I start the game, here we have 9 squares. If I click, we'll get the 8 squares. I will clear. If I click, the 0 and 1 already gone. We'll get that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I will clear. If I click on 8, we'll get that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we have 4 columns. If I click only, we'll get 3 squares. They need to push this index values. Based on this index, computer will randomly pick and place their option. For that, instead of I will use available moves dot push of I. This will help us to set all the available moves inside here. We need to check the computer's random choice with the help of let random choice equal to available moves of array value. We'll get that math dot floor of math dot random asterisk available moves dot length. This will get the next available moves based on the array of length, because for example here we have 5 values. Inside this available moves we'll get the index of 2 3 4, below 5 we'll get. That is how this math.random will work. I will show you with the help of console.log random choice. If you want to learn more about this, check out my previous video. We have created one code game with shuffled value. There I have explained very clearly with two set of arrays. Here if I hit the start game, now the console is empty. If I click, it will get 6. If I click this, we'll get 2. If I fulfilled all the values, now we'll get that 0 because we have 2. If I click, we'll get undefined because there is no moves left. So based on this random choice, we can set the O value to that squares. That is very simple because here for this square, that is also one more array. We can use this random choice dot inner HTML equal to, we'll use the same conditional operator with the help of current player not equal to x, then we'll add the x text, else we'll add the o text here. Because why we are checking here not equal to, because this is a computer choice, we need to add the opposite one, right? So only I'm checking for not equal. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I start the game, if I click, now we can see the computer selection also. If I click, we can see the computer select automatically. Once all the values filled, we are getting the undefined of setting inner HTML. Because for the squares, if it is null, we can't able to find this inner HTML and we need to place that value, right? We need to fix that and we need to check the winners also based on the combination. For checking this winner, we need to create one more function with the function keyword with the value of check winner. Inside this check winner, as I said in the demo, we have a 8 set of winning combination. It might be a row, column or diagonals. So these are the array. Based on this combination, we can declare the which user is winner or it may be a draw. For this, we are going to create one for loop with the help of let combo of this winning combinations. Inside this, we'll get array of a comma b comma c equal to combo. This will help us to get this three value inside this for each and we'll check the if condition of squares. This is what the array of the squares from a playground. We'll set that a dot inner HTML. We'll check if it is undefined or null and then we'll check the squares of a again dot inner HTML triple equal to squares of b dot inner HTML and then squares of a dot inner HTML triple equal to squares of c dot inner HTML. If this three conditions satisfied, inside this if we are checking first if undefined of this, if this value present and then we are checking a dot inner HTML triple equal to b dot inner HTML and then a dot inner HTML equal to c dot inner HTML. This will check all the three combinations here and once it's present, we need to set the different class to identify the winners. For that, squares of a dot class list dot add will set the class of winner. I will use the same for b and c also. If this is matches, we need to return from here return of true. If this is not matches, we'll set the return of false. And then we need to check this winner condition to this computer move. If winner conditions of initialization, if we get this, we'll return from here. I will save. If I go to the browser, I will start the game. I will click this is not matches. I will click this is not match. I will go to the playground. We can check if this winner class is added. If I click here, now these three conditions satisfied, right? As per our combinations. But here it is not adding this winner because we need to check this inner condition to this button click also before the computer move. I will check here, I will add here, I will go to the browser, I will start the game. Here in the playground, we can see now it is adding or not. Still it is not adding. See, whenever we click, it was changing to X all the times. We need to restrict that also. So only the current player is not matching. So we need to fix that with the help of not clicking that object. Here in the squares dot for each, we'll set the e dot target dot style of pointer events to none. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I start game, if I click this X, we can't able to click this again. See, now we can't see the cursor pointer here. Here we can see this also we need to change. Whenever this computer is clicking, I will copy this here in this inner HTML of this instead of e.target. I will set these things to square of random choice because based on this we are placing that icons, right? So again I will start the game. If I click, now we can't able to see the cursor pointer. Here we can see, but the computer also not displayed here. And then whenever we click this, the computer move also need to change, right? For that, here next to this square, we'll set the current player equal to current player of conditional operator equal to X. Then we'll change the value to O, and then if else we'll change to X. And after checking this winner again, we need to change this current player. Previously we are changing to O, instead of we'll set to X. If I save, if I go to the browser, here in the playground, if I start the game, if I click, it was adding. If I click again, now this is draw. We need to check for that also. Here we are getting the error of this console. We need to fix that also with the help of boolean flag. For that we have already created above. For this game active, with the help of this game active not equal to false, then only we need to set to this click event or square dot inner HTML not equal to null. If this both condition matches, we'll set return from here. Now as I said, we need to change this game active equal to false, because if it is false, here we are checking for not off, then this consider as true, then this will enter inside and it will not able to check the winner again. Same thing I will copy and use it here also. Now if I go to the browser, if I hit on start, if I clicking this, so now we are not getting that error, but as well as we are not getting the combinations also. So we need to add the one more function to check if the game is drawn or not. As same as winning, we are going to create one more function with check draw. For this function, we'll return the array with the help of dot array from of squares. This is the squares contain all the squares of this playground dot every. This will check all the squares inside this square dot inner HTML not equal to null. If all the boxes fill without any combination matches, that time we declared as it is draw. This is what the array from is doing. We are checking the array from of the squares dot inner HTML not equal to null. If this is considered, will get us a true. I will use this function. After the if check winner, we have this option also, right? Else if check draw of this function, will use the same thing. And for this is for a player. Once we win the game, we need to set the results. For the results, we have already added the declaration results dot inner text equal to, will add the player of string concatenation of current player and will set to wins. I will copy this and I will paste it inside this check draw. Instead of wins, we need to set to draws here. I will copy this and I will jump to this computer move. I will paste it here also. Here instead of player, will set to computer. If it is X or O, and it will automatically pick this is X or O based on the selection, and it will display the computer is winner. So now we'll check. If I go to the browser, I will refresh, I will select on X, I will start the game, I will hit here. Now computer also placed the position, I will hit here. Now it is changed to O, and here it is X. For us we have X only, right? If I click, here it is X and here it is O. If I click, now it is changed to O. We need to fix that. This was happened whenever the computer is moved. So here in the computer, what was the issue? Sorry, if not equal to X, for the computer will set to X only, and this will change to O. If I save, if I go to the browser, I will start the game. I will hit on the first square, will get that X and it will set to O. If I set to X, it will set to O here. If I click X, it was placed the O here. Now this combination is winning combination, but the winners is not adding. If I go to the element, if I check to the playgrounds, here we are not able to see the winner class is added. We need to check that. Why? Because here inside this for each, we are added this return function inside this. Instead of this, we need to set to outside of this if condition. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I start the game, I will hit on X, it will place it somewhere. If I hit on X, we'll get the player X wins. But the color change is not happened. Why? Because if I go here in the playground, here we can see the squares. It added the class now. We need to add the styles to that. With the help of this same, I will reuse dot playground dot square dot winner. If I save, if I go to the browser, I need to add the comma for this. If I save, if I go to the browser, now we can see the winner colors here. If I refresh, if I set to O, I will start the game. Now I am a user as O, computer as X. I will select this. If I select this, player O wins. If I reset, if I go and start the game, still the color is there. We need to clear this, and here result also is there. We need to reset all the values. For that, we have already created this clear square function. Inside this function, we'll set the results dot inner text equal to null. This will help us to remove this value from here. And again, once we reset, we need to set the current player as X and game active to be true. Then only we can able to click the boxes and place the object here. If we are setting this current player as X, then we need to reset the active also here. Some case user has clicked this. If I start, if I click on reset, the current player is X now. Still the active is set to the O. For that, I will copy this and I will paste it here and will set the active class to this. For the first element of 0 dot class list dot add, will set the active here for the first element. If I save, if I go to the browser, if I start the game, we can do this. We'll check the all combinations. Now player X wins. I will reset the game. Now we can see the current player as X. I will change to O. I will start the game. Still it is there. We need to remove that winner class inside this squares dot class list dot remove class of winner as well as squares dot style dot pointer events to auto. This will help us to click the box. If I save, if I go to the browser, I will start the game. I will click this. I will click here. Now the computer is win with the computer selection. I will reset. I will go for the O now. I will start the game. I will click. Again, the computer is win. I try to win myself. By the computer is win, I will reset. Start the game. If I hit myself, player X is win. I will reset. Will try to draw the game. If I go with this combination, if I click, now we have draw the game. There is no more moves and we can't able to select again. Now we'll reset and we'll play the game again. And that's it. We complete a tic-tac-toe game built with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Feel free to customize and expand on this basic setup to add more features or improve the design. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more tutorials. If you're interested in JavaScript projects like this, I have created and added a playlist link in the description. Please do check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep coding and keep learning. See you in the next video. Happy coding. Bye for now. Have a nice day.